Good evening. I'll call this meeting of the Johnson City Board of Commissioners to order for Thursday, September 6, 2018. If you will stand for the invocation by Doug Grove DeJarnette, Associate Pastor at Muncie and voice of the Toppers, you might recognize, and then stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. God of all people in every place and nation, God of peace and lover of harmony, Jesus, you wept for the city you loved, which was a place of greed, violence, wealth, and poverty, but also a place of hope and of human gathering. We pray for the city of Johnson City and for those who lead it, that the needs of food and shelter and work, for justice and dignity might be met. We pray that the diverse people living here may join their efforts to seek the good of all. Minister to this city through the hands of your people as they feed the hungry and heal the sick, comfort the sorrowing. We pray for the people of our community who have come seeking work and to survive. We pray for refugees and for those who, having served this country, have come to find shelter, healing, and a haven from the injustice of the world. May our leaders who give of their time, their talent, their wisdom, and their goodwill seek to work in gracious relationship with each other so that the common good of all of our city's citizens might be sought. Keep alive the hope that the city will find its light from your presence and its joy in doing your will. All of these things we pray in the name of the living God who seeks to dry the tears of the hurting and bring joy to the nations. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we begin tonight, if it pleases the commission, I'd like to, under street closures, section 5, if we could combine, we could have A, B, D, and F all heard in succession, since it is all the same applicant. So A, B, D, and F. We'll begin with those and then move down the list. That's okay?
Good with me.
Your first order of business is consideration of the minutes from your meeting held on Thursday, August the 16th.
Any comments, corrections?
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes, and Commissioner Fowler, good to have you back with your new knee.
Thanks.
And seeing you walk. So you did watch the meeting on TV, though.
I
You
did.
vote.
I was there in spirit anyway, watching.
Live stream.
Yes.
Very good.
Your
All right.
next order of business is the presentation of a proclamation recognizing the 60th anniversary of the Carver Recreation Center. Come on up here, ladies. Get help. We're good.
Well, we're very happy to present this proclamation. We're missing somebody, aren't we? Yeah, is he okay? All right, just checking. All right, tell him we forgive him, but we missed him. Whereas the Carver Recreation Center was formed 60 years ago in a small building located in Carver housing called the Little Rec, which housed a billiard table. And whereas the first center was built on property donated by the Gump family for a city park with organized recreational activities for residents of the surrounding neighborhood. And whereas The 16,000 square foot, two-story building was built alongside Sir Joy swimming pool, an above-ground wood frame pool that had occupied the property since 1939. And whereas, with construction of a recreation center, the pool was cemented in and opened to the public, complete with a gymnasium for people of all ages. And whereas, nearly 47 years after the opening of Carver Recreation Center, the park had expanded to include indoor amenities, a playground, a paved and lighted basketball course, a multi-use playing field, a walking trail, 2 picnic pavilions, and a community garden with a small greenhouse. Now therefore, I, David Tomita, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, do hereby congratulate the Carver Recreation Center on its 60th anniversary and commend its staff for their commitment to providing excellent services to the citizens of our region. Mayor. Here you go.
We'd like to invite everybody out to our 60th year anniversary, which will begin on September the 16th, Sunday at 3:00 p.m. We'll have dinner for the deacons, the ushers, clergy, and city government officials. On September the 17th, Monday, from 5:30 to 7:30, we'll have a basketball tribute, the Hall of Fame, Boys and Girls 2002 to 2013. September the 18th, Tuesday at 5:00 p.m., we'll have a high school and community tribute, Little League baseball, softball, track and field, skating, lifeguard, playground programs, and after-school programs. On September the 19th, Wednesday, we'll have a community memorial event, names, first responders, transit, snacks will be served after the release of the balloons, and school bus luncheon. Thursday, September the 20th, we'll have the Science Hill football team dinner, coaches, staff, and special guest speakers. On Friday, the Daniel Boone High School versus Science Hill game, we will induct Bob Snake Evans, coach 1966 to 1977. And following on September the 22nd, which is Saturday at 10 o'clock, we'll have food giveaways, gospel singing groups, and lunch with the community from 12 noon to 1 p.m. So we'd like to encourage everybody to come out and visit our recreation center and have lunch with us and enjoy the 60th year anniversary.
Very good.
Thank you.
Now, are you going to be playing basketball?
No, I'm not.
Oh, come on. Come on. All right, your next proclamation is recognizing Suicide Prevention Awareness Month.
Come on in. Well, we're pleased to have you here, although sorry to have you here. These are always tough for me because I have a brother who committed suicide at age 13. So I certainly understand the process and the cost and the wondering. So whereas suicide is one of the most disruptive and tragic events a family and community can experience, with more than 1,000 lives lost in Tennessee each year and an estimated 8 to 25 attempted suicides for each suicide death. And whereas, according to the Tennessee Department of Health, suicide is the 10th leading cause of all deaths and the second leading cause of death among ages 10 to 24. And whereas public awareness of this tragic problem is a key to preventing further suffering and loss of life. And whereas suicide prevention has been declared a statewide priority in the legislature in partnership with the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, implements the Tennessee Strategy for Suicide Prevention. And whereas Tennessee is a national leader in the effort to prevent suicide, being one of the first states to develop a suicide prevention and evaluation plan. And whereas TSPN is a grassroots collaboration of Tennesseans and organizations working to eliminate the stigma of suicide, educate the community about the warning signs of suicide, and ultimately reduce the rate of suicide in our state, and is committed to excellence in suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention. Now therefore I, David Tomita, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, in conjunction with the State and National Awareness Initiative, do hereby proclaim September 2018 Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in Johnson City, Tennessee, and urge our citizens to learn about the risk factors and warning signs so that we may help prevent suicide and the devastation it creates for those affected by these tragedies. And there you are.
Thank you so much.
Tell us who
I
you
appreciate
are
it. I am Heather Lee Sifford, and I serve as the regional chair for the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network. I'm also on the Governor's Advisory Council out of Nashville, and I'm here to get people to recognize and not be afraid to talk about suicide. Every one of us is affected by it at some point in our lifetime. For me, it was my best friend's son that took his life at 16 years old. And so that passion or that loss has fueled my passion even further. And I want to tell everybody that we have a memorial walk on September 22nd at the VA campus from 9 to noon. We are going to release balloons in memory of loved ones. We're going to have a candlelight vigil, and we're going to have a walk in memory of those. So if you know of somebody that has died by suicide, you're welcome to bring their picture out. We would love to honor their memory that day. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll sit on that Saturday.
Thank
I'll
you
be
so
out there.
much. I appreciate it.
Mayor, your next proclamation will be in recognition of National Payroll Week.
Oh, I thought you were getting up. Doing okay.
Glad to be up.
Good evening. Thanks for coming. So whereas the American Payroll Association and its more than 20,000 members have launched a nationwide public awareness campaign that pays tribute to the nearly 150 million people who work in the United States and the payroll professionals who support the American system by paying wages, reporting worker earnings, and withholding federal employment taxes. Really exciting stuff, but has to be done.
Okay.
That's right. Whereas the Payroll Association in Johnson City, Tennessee, play a key role in maintaining the economic health of Johnson City, carrying out such diverse tasks as paying into the unemployment insurance system, providing information for child support enforcement, and carrying out tax withholding, reporting, and depositing. And whereas payroll professionals have become increasingly proactive in educating both the business community and the public at large about the payroll tax withholding systems, and whereas payroll professionals meet regularly with the federal and state tax officials to discuss both improving compliance with government procedures and how compliance can be achieved at less cost to both government and businesses. And now therefore I, David Tomita, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, do proclaim the first full week of September National Payroll Week and give additional support to the efforts of the payroll professionals who work in our area. And there you are. Who you are?
Yeah. My name's Andy Shy. This is Christy Ayers. We're with Time and Pay, and we would just like to thank any of you who processes payroll for a small business or, well, who all receives a paycheck. There you go. So thank you all for your contributions to the American economy. And if you have any questions regarding payroll or anything, we're at 108 North Boone Street. Feel free to stop by. Also, the IRS is urging everyone to do a paycheck checkup just to make sure that your tax return in 2019 is going to be what you expect. So visit our website, timeandpay.com or irs.gov, if you want to make sure you're going to get the tax return you expect. So we appreciate it.
Your next presentation is a proclamation recognizing the PTA Membership Enrollment Emphasis Month.
It would be that time of year, wouldn't it?
It is.
That's right.
Discount cards and stuff.
Well, welcome. Whereas the objective of the Parent-Teacher Association is to promote the welfare of children and youth in home, school, community, and places of worship. And whereas the PTA's goals are to raise the standards of home life to secure adequate laws for the care and protection of children and youth, and to bring into closer relationship the home and school. And whereas parents and teachers may work together to ensure quality education and to develop between educators and the general public an awareness of the need for citizen involvement to secure the highest advantages in every area of education for all children. And whereas the association encourages all citizens, regardless of whether or not they have children, to enroll in the PTA so that they can have an opportunity to speak on behalf of the children in our community. Now therefore I, David Tomita, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, do hereby proclaim September 2018 PTA Membership Enrollment Emphasis Month in Johnson City and urge citizens to join the Parent-Teacher Association and get involved in meeting the educational, social, economical, should be economic needs of each child so they become citizens with quality education, positive self-esteem, and good morals. And there you are.
Thank you.
My name is Paula Treese, and I'm on the Johnson City Council of PTAs. The council is composed of 11 local units and our council. Last year, our 12 PTAs put over $180,000 back into Johnson City schools. The year before that, it was over $200,000. Our PTAs purchased or funded the following items for our schools: laptops, 3D printers, STEAM materials, teacher supplies, art and music supplies, recorders for third graders, 270 new books for kindergarten and first graders, guidance and counseling materials, field trips to Camp Explore, 4-H Camp, and WonderWorks, TATV, which is a school-wide video streaming at Town Acres, makerspace setups, dictionaries and thesauruses, senior scholarships, teacher grants and scholarships, AR, digital learning day supplies, T-shirts, monthly staff and teacher luncheons, playground shades, octoball courts. In addition, we had service projects that included Second Harvest food drives, Thanksgiving baskets, clothes closets, green and clean literacy weeks, Thanksgiving baskets, oh, that's on there twice, Christmas tree gifts for needy families. Yeah. Student needs, money for students to buy books at Book Fair, the Bridge Program, clothes closets, Teddy's Fund Donation Drive, Green and Clean, Nicewanger toy drives, money collections, walkathons, fundraisers for hurricane victims, care packages to nursing homes in the VA, and winter clothing drives. Different things that the PTA did were Grandparent Day lunches, Stop, Drop, and Read, fall festivals and carnivals, auctions, walkathons, STEM days, spirit days, art nights, game nights, math nights, reading nights, bingo nights, you name it, we had a night for it. We had senior teas at our elementary schools and fourth grade promotion celebrations. And thousands of hours citywide were donated to all our schools through our PTA volunteers. We want to thank you again for recognizing what PTA does. And don't forget to join. We've given you all our little forms. But also, in addition this year, the second form that you got, we are partnering with businesses throughout the city to give you discounts with your PTA card. So your $5 PTA card or your donation to PTA can give you 10% off at 23 businesses right now, and we're working towards 50 this year. So once you get your cards, we'll figure you can put them on your phone and just keep them and take them to those businesses that were on those. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to ask the representatives of the Society for the Preservation and Appreciation of Antique Motor Fire Apparatus in America to come forward with an award that they would like to present to Mayor Tomita and Chief James Stables on behalf of the city. Mr. Keller.
Mayor Tomita, Vice Mayor Brock, Councilman, Mr. Peterson, Fire Chief Stables. My name is Bill Killen. I'm the District 7 trustee for SPAMFA. That's the short name for our organization. Several people refer to that as the club that prevents cruelty to old fire trucks. I represent District 7 in SPAMFA, which consists of all the members of SPAMFA and the chapters in the states of Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. I'm a charter member of the East Tennessee Fire Historical Society, which nominated Johnson City to receive this award. This award was established a year ago by the national organization, and this is the fourth city to receive this award. SPAMFA has about between 2,500 and 3,000 members across the United States and Canada. Most of them do not own old fire trucks, but support people and fire departments that do. It is my honor on behalf of President Bill Dundas to make this presentation tonight, and I'm going to ask the East Tennessee Chapter President Dan Case, who's also a lieutenant with the City of Morristown, if he'd come up and assist in presenting this award to Chief Stables. And for those of you that wonder why this award is being presented, it's being presented because the city had the vision to preserve and protect a 1928 Seagrave service ladder truck, which is really in fantastic condition. I hope that when I'm that age, I move around as well as that truck does.
Can't see coming in. That's what.
At this time, if we could ask Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Corder, and all the other water sewer employees to come forward. Sorry, guys, I couldn't see all of you around the corner there.
Mayor, if I could, I'd like to stay down here and let these gentlemen get recognized. There are different award seasons. You know about the movie award season and the Oscars. Well, for whatever reason, July is wastewater treatment plant award season. And as the commission knows, the city has 3 wastewater plants. These plants serve about 75,000 people, both inside and outside the corporate limits. First plant that we always remind people of was the Brush Creek plant, was commissioned in 1957. Knob Creek plant was built in 1972, and the regional plant was put in service in 1977. All the plants have been renovated or significant reinvestments have been made at least 2 or 3 times. Since 1980, these improvements have been locally funded and address each either additional capacity or equipment or processes which have reached their useful service life or are no longer efficient. Currently, the city is engaged in about $15 million worth of investment in its Knob Creek and Brush Creek plants, with another $5 million scheduled for this next capital improvements plan. So the city commission and our customers make the investment. The other component is there's an expectation that the plants be successfully operated and maintained while they treat over 5 billion gallons of wastewater annually so that it can be safely recycled back into the environment. I want to take this time to introduce some of the individuals who make that happen and the recent awards that they've received on behalf of the city. Aaron Mullins, Operator 3, Wastewater Treatment Plant, Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant. Albert Greenwell, Operator 3, Knob Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant. Darrell Thompson, Operator 3, Brush Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant. Mike Taylor, Chief Wastewater Plant Operator, and Jeff Corder, Treatment and Facility Maintenance Superintendent. The first 2 awards Mr. Corder's holding and Mr. Taylor's holding, they're from the Kentucky-Tennessee Water Environment Association, and they recognize the operational excellence for the regional and the Knob Creek wastewater treatment plants. The second association that the city received recognition from was the National Association of Clean Water Agencies, and that's a national wastewater organization. The Brush Creek plant received the Silver Award. The Knob Creek plant received the Gold Award, and I might mention that plant has had 4 consecutive years of no discharge violations. And the regional plant received the Platinum 8 Award, which is 8 years of no violations. As the commission's aware, these facilities operate 24/7, 365 days per year, and our employees do an outstanding job of operating and maintaining what you have invested in. Another interesting fact that I think probably needs to be brought up is that whenever NACWA does an award ceremony, they make a YouTube clip of probably right around 100 facilities that have been recognized. And this year, they had a theme that Clean Water Legends, and they encouraged recipients to promote this theme. So normally, we would send in for the regional that photo, which is an aerial shot, that from a technical standpoint, we think that's a really cool photo because it shows all the processes. But our community relations group and Mr. J.T. McSpadden submitted a shot on the screen, and that was one of 3 out of about 100, a little over 100, that was recognized as very creative in meeting the theme. So that is wastewater treatment plants with an attitude. So. Would mention that the regional plant and our facilities were recognized with other facilities that included Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Charlotte, St. Louis, some of the larger cities. So we're extremely proud of that. So these guys are going to sit down. We've got one more recognition we need to make as part of this presentation. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Slint, can you come up, please? You have to go by yourself, sorry. Take that with you.
We don't want to hear this.
And again, July is wastewater water award season. So at the annual Water Professionals Conference in Nashville, July this year, there were approximately 1,500 individuals from water and wastewater utilities across Tennessee and Kentucky. We had a number of employees attend. One who wasn't able to attend was Mr. Slimp, who's our customer service manager. Greg's been very active in the AWWA Customer Service Committee over his 20-year career. He wasn't able to attend. You don't mind if I tell why, do you? Okay. He was visiting Western Europe, where he was on the Band of Brothers World War II tour, retracing some of the steps his father, who served with General Patton, made back in World War II. So up until a few minutes ago, and I don't think you were aware of it. Okay. I'm always amazed at what the organization keeps secret and what the organization can't keep secret. So we did good on this one. Greg wasn't aware that his employees had nominated him for this annual award for customer service excellence, and we're happy tonight to present him with that prestigious award, and congratulations to Greg.
Where's the stylized picture of Mr. Slimp?
We don't have that yet.
We request that for the next meeting.
Yes, we'd like to see that for the next meeting.
Thank you.
And guys, Mr. Witherspoon and your crew, thank you so much. It's funny, we talked about payroll tonight, which is one of those things that nobody thinks about. It just happens.
Until it doesn't.
Water and sewer, until it doesn't, and then it really when you hit that faucet, you expect that water coming out. When you push that plunger, you expect it to go away. And it does. And when it doesn't, it's an anomaly. I just got back from Michigan, where they sell water test kits in convenience stores, very conspicuously, because they don't have clean water. So we are blessed to have something that is a tremendous commodity in this world, clean, dependable water. And thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
For what you do, and all your people. Pass our thanks along to them.
All right, this takes us to license, the first being consideration of a beer license application for Francisco Roman doing business as Rio de Brazil, located at 1800 West Market Street. And this is an application for a Class 1 on-premise beer license. The appropriate reviews have been made, finding no disqualifying factors. Our recommendation is for your approval.
Is the applicant here tonight? Okay, will you step up? Come on up to the podium and don't be shy. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
If you just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Francisco Roman. I'm the owner of the Rio de Brazil.
Okay, and the address?
It's 1800
West Market Street.
Very good. And have you read the rules and regulations regarding the sale of beer in the city of Johnson City?
Yes, sir.
And do you agree to abide by those rules?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and do you have any questions for us?
No, sir.
I have a question for you. What took you so long? We've been watching that thing forever. We're very glad you're open. And I know a lot of people that are going to be very glad that you're open. You're the Atkins diet dream. And so, welcome. Would you like to, I think there are about 8 people watching right now, and then people we haven't here. Would you like to tell us about your business? Oh, wait a minute. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Sorry, I got ahead of ourselves.
And second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Smeeta?
Yes. Now, would you like to tell us about your business?
No, these gracias.
We're hoping to open this Wednesday, coming up, the following Wednesday. We're going to be offering 16 different types of meat, a full salad bar, wine cellar, and we're going to be open for lunch as well. So we'd like to invite everybody to come out Wednesday.
Very good. What will your hours be?
That's really complicated. I believe when we open for lunch, we're going to open at 11 and then close at 2:30. And then we'll be opening back up at 5 p.m. and close at 11 again.
Okay.
11 p.m.
Yeah, that's not too complicated. That'd be good. Hey, best of luck. I know a lot of people have been asking when you're going to open, so now we can tell them.
Is this where you'll come around to the table and carve
Yes,
the meat
ma'am.
and all that?
We are going to open one day ahead of for government officials, city officials. So we have a Facebook page, Rio de Brazil, Johnson City. So we'll be posting on that. What we're going to do that
Carnivore's
day.
dream.
No kidding. Yeah.
Thank you, good luck.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Yeah, thank you.
Your next order of business is consideration of a temporary occasion license for Family Promise of Greater Johnson City to serve beer at the Founders After Five event scheduled for Friday, September the 21st, 2018. The appropriate reviews have been made, finding no disqualifying factors. The recommendation is for your approval.
Good. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to give your name and address for the record, please.
Bob Hall, 215 West Watauga Avenue, Johnson City.
And have you read the rules and regulations regarding the sale of beer in the city of
Yes,
Johnson
we
City? And do you agree to abide by those rules?
Yes.
Do you have any questions for us?
No.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes. Would you like to tell us about your event?
Sure. This is the fifth Founders After Five that Family Promise has been able to, I guess, host, or where we are able to raise some money for our organization. Family Promise is an organization that cares for homeless families with children in our area, Johnson City, and the surrounding 6 counties. So it's good to see some of our supporters up in the commission. That's nice. We appreciate the support of the city and what we're trying to do to end homelessness in our area. So,
Good. Thank you. Good luck.
all right, thanks.
I'll just make a quick comment. We appreciate your efforts on behalf of the community. We truly do. They sponsor an event called Songfest. A couple of us have had the opportunity and the occasion to provide sponsorship dollars for that. I would encourage anybody and everybody here in this audience and those who are watching to contact Mr. Hall and indicate support financially for this organization, part of which can be through a sponsorship for Songfest.
Right. Thank you, Commissioner Van Brocklin. Songfest, which is a different event, November 4th, and we'll have Carson Peters and Iron Mountain as our showcase there. So anyway, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This takes us to street closures, the first being a request from KLH Inc., doing business as the Goose Chase for the Bluegrass Half Marathon to be held on Sunday, September the 30th. There's a map in your packet showing the roads to be closed. The Special Event Committee has reviewed this and is recommending approval.
Very good. Any questions for the applicant? How about a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
Next request is for a street closure from the Humane Society of Washington County for the Tober 5K to be held on Saturday, October the 13th. There is a map in your packet outlining the course. The appropriate reviews have been made. The recommendation is for your approval.
Any questions?
Move approval.
I have a motion. How about a second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
And Karen, didn't you say that everybody in their packet pickup will get an animal from the animal shelter?
I am not committing to that. You can ask the Humane
I
Society.
think it's a good idea.
That might affect your attendance a little bit. Yeah.
We have them, it won't cost a thing. So.
The next request is a street closure request from Ballot Health for the Scarecrow Skedaddle Shindig 5K on Sunday, October the 21st. The map is in your packet as before. The appropriate reviews have been made, and the recommendation is for approval.
For approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
The next is a request from Up and Adam for the Turkey Trot to be held on Thursday, November the 22nd. Yes, that will be Thanksgiving this year. The route appears to be the same as usual, and we would recommend your attendance and your approval, please.
Move approval.
Second.
I'm sorry. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes.
And this will be our 13th year.
13th year.
Yeah,
Wow.
amazing.
Lucky 13?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're busy and
Be lucky
and with
for
bang.
good weather. Yeah.
That's right. Doesn't matter. We're a hardy community. We show up whether it's
Come rain
good
or
or
shine
bad.
or
That's right.
sleet or snow.
We good? That was the easiest
have
one I've
another
had.
Dude, that's just 4. You don't want to put any more in?
No, I'm busy enough, but I want to say thank you. And I will take this moment for 1 second. You all approved that I could be on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board last week, and that I couldn't make it. I just want to say thank you for that, and I hope I serve you all well. But thank you.
I
Service.
want you to know I pay attention to attendance.
She'll be there.
He really does.
Yeah, he's not kidding.
It's almost erotic.
All right, the next request is from the Science Hill Band Boosters for the Hilltopper Invitational Marching Competition to be held on Saturday, October the 20th. This route involves Liberty Bell Boulevard and a number of streets on campus. The recommendation is for your approval.
Very good. Do we have any questions?
Move for approval. Second.
Okay. That was pretty clear. Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes. Would you like to tell us about the event?
Yes, the event's on Saturday, October 20th. Last year we had 17 bands come and over 2,000 people in attendance, even though it was pouring down rain. We're hoping for no rain this year. We'd like to invite you all to come. It is a great showcase of bands across our area, and we had some bands come in from Southern Virginia last year too. So it's an awesome event showcasing everywhere from bands that have, 15 or 20 kids in them up to bands like Science Hill, which has 150 to 200 people. So
Very good.
we hope y'all can come.
Same number of bands coming this year?
We're hoping. We don't have all the numbers in, but we have a couple band parents up here, so I know they're going to be there helping me. Well, former band parents and a band parent.
Yeah, I don't really have a choice. I'll be there.
Yeah. Woohoo. But we hope the rest of you come too. It is an awesome
Yeah, it is
event.
good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Your next request is from the Chamber of Commerce for their annual Walnut Street Trick-or-Treat to be held on Wednesday, October the 31st. This street closure is for that section of Walnut Street that they typically close between Watauga and Southwest. We would recommend your approval.
Very good. Any questions for the applicant? How about a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes. Would you like to tell us about your event?
I'm Tanya Tizer with Home Trust Bank.
Get in front of the microphone, Tanya. Yeah.
I'm Tanya Tizer with Home Trust Bank. We are pleased to partner with the Chamber of Commerce. This is Elisa and the Firehouse Restaurant to bring the 23rd annual Trick-or-Treat on Walnut Street to the community. We estimate around 3,000 to 4,000 attendees show up, families. It's just a good, safe place for families to come and trick-or-treat. We invite members of the merchants on Walnut Street as well as members of the Chamber of Commerce and our police department, fire department, emergency services to come out and participate with us. So it's a fun event. And as customary, I have some treat bags for you, so it wouldn't be trick or treat without some treats.
Oh, we got through this fast because we knew you were going to give those.
Thank you.
There's money in this one, right? That's better than money.
Thank you. Now you need to publicly invite commission candidates to participate like you usually do.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Good luck. Yep, it'll be great.
Your next order of business is a street closure request from Girls on the Run of Northeast Tennessee for the Girls on the Run 5K to be held on Saturday, December the 8th. This event will begin and end in Thomas Stadium and will involve a partial closure of University Parkway and Lamont Street. We would recommend your approval.
Very good. Any questions?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. How about, call the roll, Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes. And I don't know if you get the award, but you're right up close to the Plan Ahead Award. Thank you for coming in for a December event.
Awesome.
Not in December, yeah.
And it's not the same time as the Christmas parade. so
Correct.
No,
this is-
we're
this
trying to
is
be
all
good
good.
community
Very good.
partners.
Like, tell us about your event.
Sure. Right now, Girls on the Run of Northeast Tennessee is gearing up to start approximately 550 girls throughout Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia and our physical activity positive youth development program that's led by coach volunteers. Throughout this 10-week season that we have in the fall, the girls will meet twice a week, and they will set long-term goals and short-term goals to learn how to be joyful and confident and healthy. And these are led through our research-based curriculum. And at the end of this 10 weeks, all the girls, all 550 girls, and along with our community, come together to celebrate what they have learned and what they have accomplished in their empowerment program. And that will be on Saturday, December the 8th at Thomas Stadium. And girls will be running, walking, skipping, hopping, and jumping to celebrate completing this 5K. And I say completing because they don't get timed, but the community has the option to be timed if they would like. So we invite you guys to come out, and we appreciate your support and approval.
Great. Thank you.
When does the 10-week program start?
It will, well, for university schools, since they are a year-round school, it's already started. It started this week, but everyone else will start the week of September the 24th.
And that is in our public schools, and it starts at 3rd grade, is that correct?
Yes, we serve 3rd through 8th grade girls. So we have 2 programs, Girls on the Run, which is 3rd through 5th grade, and then we have a program called Heart and Soul, which is 6th through 8th grade, that deals with a little more mature topics that girls that age will face, and we help them navigate through those.
So if parents are listening and they wanted to sign their children up, how would they do that in the schools?
They can contact, each school has a site liaison. They can contact the site liaison, or they can visit our website at gotrnetn.org or go to stronggirlsrun.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think they also sent flyers home.
Did they?
I believe so.
Did Ashley get one?
Yes, I have seen flyers.
Sure take
Yes.
this, and I want her to be in it.
Your next order of business is consideration of the consent agenda. And if I may, I would like to have Mr. Penzola come up and talk about B9. And not to steal Commissioner Van Brocklin's thunder, but I think we should probably also spend a little bit of time talking about D1.
Thank you, sir.
D1 or B1?
D1.
D is in
B,
dog.
9B is in Bravo 9.
All right.
And D is in
Our Mayor, David.
Dog 1.
The only one.
The only one.
So, my right to left, Commissioner Wise, anything you'd like to?
Yeah, I'd like to pull A2.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
And 2 of my 3 have been caught already, so that's good. I'd like to pull A5, please.
Vice Mayor Brock?
I am good.
Commissioner Fowler? Good. Okay. Very good. A2.
Mr. Stahl?
Commissioners, this item is consider approval of a grant agreement with the Tennessee Historic Center for the nomination of the Gump Edition, also known as Hillrise Park, to the National Register of Historic Places. This entails, earlier in the year, the support of Historic Zoning, which presented to you a grant application to see if they can secure a $12,000 grant, which is a matching grant, requires a $8,000 match from us to survey historic properties within the Gump Edition. We've identified up to 123 structures built between 1920 and 1950. These are contributing structures to the survey of this specific location. The general area or boundary of this survey is bounded by Woodland Avenue, East 9th Avenue, a portion of East Holston to Hale Avenue, bounded by Baxter and Oakland Avenue. And this does allow, again, a survey and identification of these historic structures, does allow for the possible nomination to the National Register, supported by the Tennessee Historical Commission. It does not translate into a regulatory mandate, though, where it would place these properties under a different regulation from a local perspective regarding, painting of the structure or some type of regulation that is currently employed through the Historic Zoning Commission on specific areas in the city that currently exists. So this is merely to, again, establish a database, which we all know exists there, but has never been formally recorded and identified, and collectively doing so at one time. And again, it does involve public meetings, input of the citizenry. There has been initial meetings sometime back before this application was even submitted, but it would require follow-up meetings and involvement of the citizens as this process moves forward, provided you approve the entrance of this grant.
When you talk about the citizens, is it the one in that district, have they been notified? I mean, do they know this is going on?
It's my understanding there was initial meetings to these citizens prior to this grant application even being discussed and proposed. It was approved for submittal, subsequently submitted and approved. And now what will happen, the next step, if you approve this grant contract, there are specific requirements in this document that a qualified historic surveyor of sorts would be retained through a formal RFP process, would be assigned by this city, and then that person would be engaged to perform the historic survey, again, with the intent of not just surveying individual homes, but the collective properties, and would detail these properties as far as the contributing structures, why they are a contributing structure to historic preservation in the National Register, and this would result in a potential nomination to the National Register for these specific properties, and the general district as a whole is a possibility.
The only other district we have on the National Register is the Tree Streets. Is there the South Side neighborhood?
Tree Streets is a specific one. There may be, my memory is slipping, there may be another dozen. There is not, okay, good. Tree Streets, then I stand corrected.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So how did the date 1920 get established?
Well, I don't know quite the answer to that. I think there was some initial, I think
his home is older than that.
think the Gump addition, again, some folks call it Hillrise Park, but obviously the property was initiated by the Gump family. The first structures, I think, of significance and certainly of any number were constructed beginning in 1920. So I think that's the benchmark of the platting of that area.
Yeah, that Gump house really wasn't important, right?
It was built before 19.
That's outside the specific area, I think.
All right, well, okay.
Thank you.
But I'm going to go ahead and do all my gaudy upgrades before that happens. So.
Any other questions on that item? Okay, the next item, I
A5.
think, is A5, Mr. Witherspoon.
Next A5 is consider approval of work order number 12 for the downtown infrastructure replacement grant project. Tom, if you just tell us a little bit, number one, about the grant, number two, about how you intend to apply the monies, what benefit this grant is going to give us.
Yes, sir. Of course, the grant was triggered by Allied Dispatch Solutions located in their headquarters downtown. And we've worked with First Tennessee Development District that whenever you have a jobs addition somewhere, especially if it's in our service area, to alert us that there may be grant money available that will go with those jobs additions. In this case, because they're locating downtown, the water and sewer lines that actually would serve that renovated structure down there become eligible for replacement or rehabilitation. So in the case downtown, We've got this, what we'll be focusing on will be the block of West Market Street between Roan and Buffalo Street. And so a portion of that street will probably have to be open-cut construction. Some of it, we may be able to line the sewer line, but the water line's probably going to be a ditch somewhere with a new line. The other portion of the project, if you remember, and again, just as a reminder, it seems like a long time ago, but it wasn't. We laid the main interceptor up Commerce Street, King Street, Commerce Street, across Founders Park and tied into State of Franklin. And that project relieved all of the flow off of what was the 1970 sewer interceptor that follows Buffalo from about where Tupelo Honey's at on around to about where Muncie Church is at. When we got all the flow off of it, except with what was being served localized, we got it cleaned good, we got it TV'd. Because the line is at or below the creek, we're getting some inflow and infiltration into that line. So we made a wise decision not to replace it at its current location, but we're going to attempt to line a segment of that line all the way from about where Roan Street crosses Buffalo up to near where Tupelo Honey is at. And I think in answer to the other part of your question is there's never a good time to do this work. There is a worse time to do this work, and that's after you get redevelopment of downtown, and then we're in having to do replacements on new streetscapes, and you've got more individuals living downtown, and so it's more of an annoyance. And so this is a segment that the positives are we got some money to help offset the cost. And we'll get it done, and then that part of the streetscape can redevelop.
Very good. I appreciate that. And yeah, it does kind of lead into a comment that I would like to make. We've talked a lot about redoing the streetscape on Main Street in that block. We've talked about the cost. We've talked about things that you might try to accomplish, like making it aesthetically very nice, doing pavers. We've talked about the need at the very least to take care of the sidewalks and that through that area, which are in dismal shape. We've spent a lot of time talking about that in the 7 years that I've been on the commission. We haven't moved forward. So I hope, Mr. Peterson, that we will begin to talk very seriously once this is being contemplated and being done about going ahead and following through and finishing up that block of downtown. To me, that's been one of the highest priorities that we have not met in downtown to this point. So I hope that you can come to the commission with an indication of cost, that the commission can sit down and decide, is it going to be highly aesthetic using pavers and that sort of thing, or is it going to be putting it back but with new sidewalks? I would really dearly love to see this move forward, and it sounds like we've got just the very reason why it could and should.
We will certainly include that in the CIP and the budget next year if that's what y'all would like to do.
Actually, I'd like to, but I'd like to have the conversation ahead of that and start making some plans, some concrete plans to actually move forward on it. Because when it gets in the CIP, it tends to languish. And I would love, before I leave this commission potentially in 2 years, I would love to see this project initiated if not done.
Right. The construction work is probably 12 months before it gets started.
We won't start till after Labor Day of next
19.
year of 19.
So we're 12 months before Tom starts sewer.
That gives us 12 months to get it completed, and I would love to see that as a swan song on this commission.
That's what I'm saying. If we can get
You get to cut
money
the
in the
ribbon.
19 budget to do it, then we're in sync with his construction schedule. And just as a point of clarification, we're talking about Market Street now, not Main Street, okay? But
Understood that.
One-
We could
once-
look at doing both.
Okay. It's, and I don't mean this flippantly, but it's your money and we can spend it as you direct.
I would like to see it directed in that
Yes, sir.
particular endeavor.
Okay. Bob, if you'll make a note of that. Okay. All right, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Phil's got plenty of money in his budget. Phil, could you come up and
B9?
talk about the stream bank mitigation project in Unicoi, Buffalo Valley?
You have on the agenda the uninvoiced for Bard Solutions that they developed the prospectus that was submitted mid-August to the Corps engineers for the stream mitigation bank that we have discussed. What that involves is actually improving the water quality and that sort of thing of the creeks at Buffalo Valley. The number of credits that they noted in the prospectus was around 9,200, and the value of a credit is between $300 and $500 per credit. So obviously, we're talking about a significant amount of money. What the process is from this day forward is right now the Corps is in the doing their due diligence, reviewing the application. It takes about 30 days and that sort of thing. Then we will have a time in which we do a field review of the project, and then there will be whatever adjustments are necessary, and then that will be followed by a public comment period of 30 days. Then there is an additional 30 days in which they will respond to any public comments, if any, and then make a decision about approving the project. If approved, we would then go into the design phase, followed by the construction phase. And we would expect if everything goes as we envision, we would expect to be getting into the design phase later this year in about 2 or 3 months. And then we have targeted the spring, summer for construction activity. The credits themselves, depending on how many credits are involved in this program, are allocated out over a 5-year period of time. It's not that you could sell all the credits in year one. So year one, there would be a 20% of the credits would be let loose, followed by the year two of 20%, and so on. And it actually is done over a 5-year period of time. It is a significant return on the property if in fact it is what we've envisioned in the prospectus, which leads us to we had a public meeting yesterday with the folks at Buffalo Valley and did inform them that the city was very interested in the stream mitigation bank, and we won't know for some time what the impact on the balance of land is until everything settles with what's approved and what's not. During that discussion, it was intended to alert the people of Buffalo Valley that we did need to excavate topsoil for projects that are ongoing to give us a supply, hopefully for 2 or 3 years. And it's really the only source that we have available to us to the standard as expected by a resident that we are impacting in Johnson City in their front yard. We also, at the meeting, and that seemed to go very well in the discussion, they were just concerned about the slopes and making sure we get everything changed out. Right now we're at 1-to-1 slopes, and we wanted to change the slopes and get things to migrate in. We also discussed not only the stream bank that was issue 2, we also asked that they make suggestions as to how to maybe improve entrance ways or things that we could do to help stabilize that particular area. Is there anything that we could do, like provide areas for entrance signs? And they mentioned that some of the trees had fallen on the paths, one of the main trees, and we took care of that today. So we then suggested to them that that they should sit down and just kind of think through how to enhance their area and what we could do to contribute, and we'd be open to that. The final area of discussion of that public meeting was the reuse of the land. And there's statements made back and forth, but at the end of the day, what we suggested, is we hadn't heard, what we have heard are individuals talk about the reuse of property. Their concern is the devaluation of their property due to the fact that the golf course isn't there. And so our comments really were, well, what would you like to see? How could we reuse that property in such a way that would help stabilize the valuations and help stabilize the neighborhood? And we've heard from them individually, but we haven't heard from them collectively. So we ask that they get together and just start talking amongst themselves what ideas are out there that they would like to see. The reason I bring that up, and they agreed that they would do that. I've received confirmation today that they plan to do that. Their issue, in part, was about communication. I think we've broken through that barrier, if there was one, and opened up this dialogue so that there are no surprises by either party with the other. What we would suggest is to give, we don't know exactly how that land's going to look if we get into the stream bank, stream mitigation bank. And you might want to consider slowing down a little bit and let's see how that shakes out. And then we can see what the balance of land looks like. At the very same time that that's occurring, they're working together to try to come up with ideas that they believe would enhance their neighborhood and help stabilize their housing values. And those can work very well if we just take the time to let that mature, and we'll see where we are. So that's the Stream Mitigation Bank update, and that is an update of what was discussed yesterday.
I want to make sure I understood exactly what you said. You said slow down the stream bank?
Slow
project?
down the process of, my suggestion would be to slow down the process of doing something with the property until we know what the property would look like as a result of the stream bank, and to gain insight from the neighborhood what they would like to see, so that you have all the things in front of you to make really good judgments.
Thank you.
I understand that thought. What concerns me is you've got a golf course that by the month is becoming less and less of a golf course. It's going downhill. And the longer that we sit on it, the less is the potential, certainly, that it gets sold for that use. It may be a pipe dream to think that it would be sold for that use. But to me, that's a real concern in just sitting on it. Doing this stream banking does not preclude putting it up for sale and selling it, does it? I mean, it would have no impact on our sale of it potentially, except for we might end up having to back off of doing any stream banking.
Well, if it's going to be a golf course, and with some of the improvements that are projected, it would impact some of the holes that exist today if you were going to go with a golf course. Now, that doesn't mean that you would necessarily do those improvements. You would just isolate those out.
I wouldn't propose that we would be doing those improvements. I would propose that whoever bought it would be the one who would be doing whatever improvements had to be done.
Well, whoever buys it then would own the credits.
I thought that we had the possibility, based
landowner.
upon earlier conversation, that those could be pared out from sale.
Well, I don't know what would be pared out from the sale. That's the
Yeah, that's what we're waiting to hear.
there are certain areas that, for example, as you first enter, there's a hole there, and I think it's like number 6. It's before the par 3. And the creek, Buffalo Creek, runs in front of it. Well, if you do the mitigation, if you do it without the notion that there's a golf course there, then we would be doing improvements on both sides of that creek that may in fact reach into the green that exists. Well, that doesn't mean you couldn't move the green.
It'd be a par 4 instead of a
you
par
can-
5, and be par 71 instead of 72. So there are things that can be done.
Trees behind it.
Yeah.
If you
And there's
then
a creek
go
out
further
there.
up and cross number 7, then you could, if that's what we choose to do, and take out all the obstructions in order to enhance credits, then it'd be a matter of moving the T. One of the concepts was the lakes, the 2 ponds, that we would actually eliminate those 2 ponds at number 4 and 5, I think it is, and convert those to a buffer zone, essentially. So we're going to have at least 100 feet. And we convert that. So things would look different if we go to the full scale of what is in the prospectus. The pond, we even talked about, and what we were looking at was, let's maximize and then work our way back when decision time is upon us, is the pond in front of number 3. Would you eliminate that pond and convert it to a wetlands area? Well, there's no problem with the wetlands area. I've played many courses that do that. But it would be different than what you see today, and may actually impact how you would reconstruct a golf course unless we choose not to do certain elements of the stream mitigation in order to protect the golf course as is.
Yeah, I would have thought that that would be one way that we would be looking at approaching it, quite honestly, but it sounds like what you're suggesting is that it would involve not just strictly staying along where water currently is, but actually expanding out into the course itself, so
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
There's a hole number 3, which is kind of a short par 4 that goes over the pond. And what we talked about in the field review was actually to move the creek away from the road in order to maximize stream credits. Doesn't mean you have to do it. It's just, that's what was included.
What period of time before Marge comes back to us with what their suggestions are about how we're going to do this?
You never got into the explanation of where the process goes from where we are today. As far as it
What I
going
did
to the
indicate
core
was that
and-
there is a 30-day review period by the Corps of the prospectus. They are halfway into that. It was submitted in mid-August.
Okay.
Then that is followed by field reviews, and then adjustments, and then public comment period with another review of the public comment period. If you add those chunks of time together, then sometime later this year, we will have a feel for what they're going to approve. And that would then lead us to the construction documents. Well, it would be at that time that you decide, well, where do you want to construct? Because we have to tell the engineer what to design. So I would think September, sometime in November, we should have a much better feel. And then as well, you would have a feel from residents as to what they would like to see if it's not going to be a golf course.
Okay, well, that's a fairly short period of time. That's a lot shorter than I was anticipating it might be. When will we have a feel for what all of this cost of construction will be? And do you have a feel for what we're likely to be getting into? You probably don't without knowing what features are going to be promoted and which ones may be axed from the list.
As I
Because, you know,
indicated to
if we're
Pete,
looking at potentially, your figures would say $2.7 to $4.6 million over 5 years if you sold everything and you developed everything. But, you know, if we're going to make a couple $1 million investment on creating wetlands and that sort of thing to be able to take these credits.
Our
you know,
numbers were maybe around 10% of the value of the
Okay.
credits.
Okay. I hadn't.
That
heard-
was the
I had
discussion
not-
I had,
yeah,
but I can't give you anything
I had
specific.
not heard that number promoted before. And, you know,
Yeah,
what
we talked
I don't want to do is continue to delay sale or even putting it up for sale, and then be faced with a cost to construct to potentially get the ability to sell credits that becomes astronomical, and 10% is not astronomical. So if, you know, if that's realistically what we're looking at is staying within that, and it's not going to be a huge commitment of your department's time, then, okay, I'm okay with doing that.
Well, and I think I understand why this is a frustrating question to the neighbors, because it's in their backyard, and we talk about it a little bit, and then we retreat from talking about it because there's things we don't yet know. And the difficulty for the municipality is anytime we engage these kinds of questions, we do so out in the open and in an effort of discovery to understand what all the variables are, and we begin the process not necessarily knowing what all the variables are going to be. And I think our first and foremost interest in Buffalo Valley is to preserve asset values for the taxpayers of Johnson City. And so that's why we haven't done anything yet, because we want to make sure that we're making the best possible decision with the asset we have. With that said, we want to be good neighbors to the people around the course and the people in Unicoi County. But as this moves forward, some of the reason we're not saying things is because we don't yet know everything, or we have hunches about how things might be going, but we don't want to say something and create the appearance of a commitment to do something that may not come to fruition. To me, this banking project is certainly one we owe it to taxpayers to figure out what can we do, how can we do it. Frankly, if I were a neighbor, seeing a large chunk of this land tied up in a way that can never be developed as anything other than like a babbling brook through your backyard sounds like a pretty decent resolution of the view. I think we just need to give this time. At the same time, I think we need to know something in November so that we don't lose sight of continuing to move this toward resolution, would be my thought. Because I think it's safe to say the asset value of Buffalo Valley is not likely to be in its golf coursedness. I believe it's going to be in some other value of it. It is, golf coursedness. I don't think that's where its value is going forward.
Yeah, what we talked about a little bit, Commissioner, we didn't really talk about golf course. When you look at it, when you look at economic development from a regional standpoint, that brings in a whole other list of possibilities. I don't know what they are, but it does open us up to just at least taking a look at what those things are. I don't know what it would be. I don't know if it's ball field. I don't know if it's equestrian. I don't know. I have no clue. But that does give us some maneuvering room. I think the biggest frustration on their part is they hadn't heard from us, and rightly so. We didn't know. And so what has been outlined has been a strategy to just incrementally go so that we understand where we are at any given time in order to move forward, and gives them time to input.
Very good.
Appreciate you having that conversation with them, particularly regarding the soil removal. You know, if we can calm that down, that's great. Thanks, sir.
Randy, can I get you to come up, please? The next item that I think you wanted to talk about was item D1, which is the RFP from Burwell Construction for the construction of a new middle school cafeteria and gymnasium at Liberty Bell. I'll let Mr. Trivett get into the details, but as is pointed out in your commission packet, the guaranteed maximum price on this project is $8,350,000. A review of the funding sources, there is $9.5 million available for this project. Now, the total, including ancillary costs, A&E fees, fire marshal review, all of those things, and having a total contingency of $600,000 in the project brings the total spend on this project to $9.448 million. So total all in, everything including the $600,000 contingency is less than what's currently budgeted for the project. This project evolved from the need to get better cafeteria, kitchen, gymnasium facilities for the Liberty Bell School, as well as freeing up that space in the bottom of Freedom Hall for reuse and to get the students on that campus over into the Liberty Bell buildings proper and not have to go back and forth into the Freedom Hall building. That will create a lot of flexibility with your Freedom Hall building. Yes, sir.
Peterson, my recollection of the bond issue the county did resulted in a share to the city schools of about $8.5 million.
Correct.
So you mentioned closer to $9.5 million. Break down the difference.
There is $500,000 available out of the PEP account, which gets us to 9, and we budgeted an additional 500 in this year's budget to bring total funding on this project to 9.5. Unless there is really just an unforeseen condition in the dirt work, which I really don't think there's going to be. The contractor has given us a guaranteed maximum price of $8,350,000. So if it ends up costing them $9 million to do the project, all we have to pay them is $8,350,000. The price of steel goes through the roof. That doesn't impact us. We've got a guaranteed maximum price, which certainly plays into our favor at this point in time with the tariff situation across the globe and the changing markets and agreements in international trade right now. You never know what's going to happen to some of those commodity prices. So that's certainly advantageous to us.
The 500,000, will that strictly come out of our capital budget, or does the school board have any capital they'll be applying toward this?
The school board has no capital beyond what's in the PEP account. Randy can answer lots of detailed questions that I can't.
Randy, I didn't ask that you be up here so much to give us detailed answers to very specific questions, but to give kind of a general overview of the project for the public so they understand what this significant investment in our schools is going to accomplish. This has been something that Commissioner or Vice Mayor Brock and I for 11 years have been advocating for. We're just tickled to death that we're finally getting to the point where we're moving forward on it. If you can just kind of lay out in kind of general terms what it's going to accomplish.
Absolutely, and I appreciate the opportunity to explain it to you. What we've been working on probably for the past 6 months is getting a design layout for a new cafeteria and gymnasium that will attach to Liberty Bell so that the kids there will not have to go outside to gain access to a gym or to eat their lunch or go to the cafeteria. This will have a connector breezeway that will be enclosed that comes off of the existing part of Liberty Bell and ties into about a 40,000 square foot new construction facility. With that being said, we've worked with the school and the school board, the school staff. We've worked with the architects. We've worked with Burwell Construction over the past 3 or 4 months to value engineer to make sure it meets the standards for flow of how the kids will access the cafeteria, how they'll be able to utilize the seating capacity. The seating capacity as it's designed right now with this guaranteed maximum price is 348 students that can sit at one time. The gymnasium has the bleachers and the locker rooms that were needed going through the athletic director and his design and his desires for the gymnasium. And the gym will seat 1,300
spectators and students if they have an entire assembly or something that they need for that gymnasium. So we think it's well designed. We think we've skinned it down, to use a term, that what we've tried to do with budget, but still maintain what the asset is if you're going to spend this kind of money, to make sure you get the utilization out of it and it meets the needs of the school staff. Another part of this that's included in that construction cost that we think that there's a way that we're going to do some very close scrutiny and some planning on, and we're getting multiple bids right now for it, is the kitchen equipment. This is going to be a state-of-the-art kitchen the way it's designed. The equipment is all new, and there's an $851,000 allowance for the kitchen equipment that's in there. If there's a possibility that we can take, the stainless steel tables and the prep tables and those types of things out of Freedom Hall and move over there to save some money, we're going to look at trying to do that. But that's why we put an allowance in there based on the design and all new kitchen equipment. So we feel like this meets the needs of the school system. It'll allow them to be able to utilize this space for their athletic events and for assembly and for phys ed. And then as moving forward, this is kind of part of a bigger plan for the school system. They're underway right now to study a concept of middle school concept of converting Indian Trail into a middle school. That's in the process of a planning stage right now to do a comparability study. So eventually, if that happens, then you'll be moving kids and separating and doing that to keep the numbers in the bubble, to control the bubble of population as it comes through. And then the long-range plan down the road will be to look at moving fifth grade back into the elementary schools. And so there's a well-orchestrated plan that's going through that this is just one piece and one component of, in order to help the school system to satisfy the growth of the city and the number of children that are coming through, to be able to educate them in their community, let them stay with their peers and their group that they start out with school and follow all the way through with.
Just for comparison's sake, what's the cafeteria seating capacity at Indian Trail?
Indian Trail is about 250, if I'm not mistaken. Dr. Barnett's here, but I think it's about 250 at Indian Trail.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Peterson, until we figure out what we're going to do with the space at Freedom Hall, I'd just be kind of cautious about scavenging the kitchen there, because it may be something because we're going to be losing space at Millennium Center, and maybe there's space in Freedom Hall that we could use for meeting space, and we may need those kind of facilities.
I think you and I had that conversation the other day with the relocation of the student population out of Freedom Hall. You've got a real opportunity to reutilize some space into meeting rooms, breakout rooms. I don't know that you'd ever need a kitchen the size of the kitchen that's in Freedom Hall right now. I mean, they're set up to feed 1,500 people. But yes, I think we need to begin the process of reviewing what we want to do with that space and make sure that we don't take steps now that we're going to have to undo later. If you'll recall, when we did the remodel of the arena, there was discussion about remodeling all the dressing rooms, and we decided at that point, let's hold off and get this project moving to see, do we really need those to continue to be dressing rooms, or do we need them to be meeting space or some other use? So I think it's the long-term plan that we've been working off of, I think, for 10 years, as Commissioner Van Brocklin's talked about. It's, the pieces are moving, the plan's coming together, and similar to what we've done previously when we repurposed juvenile court and the old Memorial Stadium and the senior center. We had 4 or 5 pieces that we had a plan for, and they fit very nicely, and it saved us a lot of money over the long haul. And I think this is just another example of how good planning and a little strategic thinking can result in greatly enhanced facilities without a tremendous amount of expenditure. So we look forward to making it happen. This will be another one of those that'll be a really good one.
What is the timeline? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. If you choose to approve this tonight, we're actually going to issue a notice to proceed to Burwell Construction for October the 1st of this year. And it's a allotted 18-month project of construction. So by April or May of 2020, it should be completed and be able to turn over to the schools. And they could start that following fall in 2020 with their new school group coming in. They'll have the summer to get it set up and decorated and do the things they need to do on the inside.
Well, by all means, let's approve it.
Well,
All right.
Dr. Burnett's here. Did you want to add anything to it, Dr. Burnett?
Yeah, Dr. Barnett actually called me to let you know earlier today to see about coming just to show his appreciation and support of what you got.
We'll have to ask him if he wants us to approve this.
Yeah, do you want them to approve it? What's your recommendation?
We really are very appreciative. We're ready to move forward. And we're excited about this opportunity for the students to be under one roof and to move forward with, hopefully with a 2 middle school plan, and then have a plan that we'll move into through the next 5, 10, 15 years, and as hopefully our city and our school system continues to grow. But we're very appreciative, and thank you for considering this.
You're
and
satisfied
helping
with
us.
the design and?
We're very excited about it. We essentially started with the design, added to it, came back to where we started, which is a really good gym and cafeteria. The way the cafeteria is laid out, students should be able to come through, have plenty of places to sit and eat, and then the way that they move out will allow students to come in and the good flow through the cafeteria, and the gym's a great space. Mr. Hager been on the board since 1983, and he said he felt like we needed to make sure we had at least the seating for the students that would be there. And by design, Liberty Bell will be a little bit bigger as far as student population than Indian Trail. So it should fit our student population at that school. And if we need to necessarily, and hopefully if that opportunity comes to move 5th grade back down to the elementaries, then we should have plenty of capacity in the middle grades.
Are there any changes you're going to have to make at the school during construction?
Probably not at Liberty Bell. Indian Trail, we're looking at some science lab design, storage space that needs to be added. That school lacks storage, and it lacks some athletic dressing facilities especially. We know that, and we'll expect that back, I think by November is
Before Thanksgiving.
Before Thanksgiving, our 2 middle school comparability study that the school board's doing. The school board's very, want to make sure you, told you how much they appreciate this as well.
Now, did that study stay in the hands of Tom Weems, or did you end up contracting with somebody
That
else?
is with Tom Weems.
Okay.
That part of the, is gone with him.
And he developed a very good team of support to help him do that study, and they're working. They've already completed their field observations and inventory that they're bringing back, and so now they're actually working on paper with the drawings and the recommendations, comparing square footage.
It'll be a good November Facilities Committee meeting then, that's good.
And the actual facilities, and I was going to mention to you all, the Facilities Committee meeting that's coming up this coming Thursday, I was going to bring the plans for the Liberty Bell gym and cafeteria addition to review that with all the board. They're going to invite all the board, school board members, and the members of you all are welcome to come to, and the ones that are already on that facility committee.
The conversation, this isn't on the agenda, but the conversation about the 2 middle schools and kind of reconfiguring the grades, when does that move from sort of theoretical to timetables? And I mean, I know some of that has been defined, but when would?
I think that the gym and cafeteria is the piece that really needs to come into
So
place.
at least 2 school years away.
Probably we're looking at 2021. Yeah.
What time is that meeting? Is it 11, 12? 1:30.
1:30. Thank you. And we'll send out another invitation to that. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin,
Many good things from moving forward on here, yes.
Commissioner Wise.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock,
Yes.
and Mayor Temita.
Yes.
Your next order of business is consideration of ordinance number 4666-18, involves an exchange of properties with the First Presbyterian Church. The ordinance would convey to the city a piece of property owned by the church located on Main Street and a corner lot at Wilson and Commerce in exchange for a piece of property that we own on Main Street immediately adjacent to First Presbyterian Church, which is the former location of Johnson City Furniture Company. Phil, anything else we need to add to that? And just to keep us on track, I will read the ordinance caption. Ordinance 4666-18, an ordinance authorizing a contract for the exchange of real estate with First Presbyterian Church of Johnson City, Incorporated, of certain parcels of real property owned by the City of Johnson City and located in the 9th Civil District of Washington County, Tennessee, upon the terms and conditions contained herein, and repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, ready for your consideration on first reading.
Very good. Any discussion?
Move for
Any
approval.
questions?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just to comment, I'm happy to see this one moving forward as well, Mr. Gonzalez.
Saying the same thing.
It's like Christmas. isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a great meeting.
All the stuff we've done. Yeah. Now, if we just had Buffalo Valley. Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin.
Yes.
Commissioner Wise.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock,
Yes.
Mayor Temita.
Yes. It's your birthday.
This next item goes hand in hand with the ordinance you just approved, and it is consideration of an agreement of sale for 201 West Main Street, known as the Marshall Cottingham property. This is an agreement of sale for the sale of 201 West Main Street, which is adjacent to one of the parcels that the church owned that we just talked about. The sales price is $40,000. The Johnson City Development Authority has agreed to reimburse the city the cost of this lot. The plan is to combine the church lot when we get it with this lot, tear down the building and create a new public parking lot there. And Phil, I believe I'm right in saying that that will net about 50 new or additional parking spaces in the downtown area beyond what are currently in existence. We would recommend your approval.
I did have a question. That looks to have been a former gas station, and I had asked the question about underground power, or not underground power, underground fuel tanks, which Mr. Penzola acknowledged had been removed. I guess my question was one about what does an owner, in a previous life, I dealt with leases on some properties, some of which had underground fuel tanks. My concern is the future liability to the city. Even though the tanks have been removed, if somebody comes along and finds some new hazard we failed to account for, is there any, what can we know, or is there anything out there that gives us some assurance that we're sufficiently covered against those kinds of claims?
There is no record in a review of the TDOT records that there was ever tanks there. So as far as TDEC is aware, there never have been tanks there. The typical process with properties that have underground tanks, once your name's on the title, you always have liability exposure. So if there were tanks, I would assume that the Marshall Cottingham folks would still have liability exposure for the tanks that were there, as would we at that point. There would be a shared liability.
I think we would look to be deeper pockets. I mean, that's my concern, that's my understanding too, that if 15 different people own a piece of property that had tanks buried on them, doesn't matter when you owned it and whether they were your tanks, when they're doling up who's responsible, you get a piece of it. But when you say TDEC doesn't have record of tanks, does that mean tanks really weren't there, or they just don't have it written down anywhere they can find it?
I don't ever remember there being a service station there. And TDEC doesn't have record of tanks, so that's about as much clarity that I can add to it.
I
Phil?
can't speak to that, but to try to give you some comfort level. Whenever you're into mitigation, we've done this before, you would remove tanks and that sort of thing, then you cap. Well, what we're doing is building a parking lot. So there is no infiltration. If anything, we're actually helping the situation by maintaining it as a parking lot. Now, if you came in and did buildings and you start excavating, there may be limitations, but we're not doing that.
So Mr. Peterson is asking the older members of the commission what we recall there, and I think it was a used car lot.
Yeah, he wasn't talking to me.
Yeah.
I kind of thought Commissioner Brock and I would be the ones that with the longest history or recollection.
I'd like to make a comment. I'd just like to emphasize that the JSDA is providing the monies to do this, and that says a little bit about their commitment to the downtown and to their understanding that parking continues to be an issue and probably will be in the future as well. So to me, particularly with their support in this endeavor to go ahead and proceed with this and have the additional parking downtown is very valuable. So
Is that a motion?
I would move that that we agree to the sale, to the purchase of 201 West Main Street, the Marshall.
Very good. Got a motion? How about a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil. And we're adjourned.
Nothing left.
Your next order of business is consideration of a resolution authorizing the Johnson City Energy Authority doing business in Bright Ridge to provide high-speed internet, video, cable, and other broadband and internet-enabled services. TCA 736-107 requires that the Board of Commissioners approve this resolution by a two-thirds majority before Bright Ridge can move forward with the provision of those additional services. I would call to your attention that the State Comptroller's Office has reviewed the business plan put together by Bright Ridge that calls for the expansion of their current business from electrical distribution into this new broadband and internet-enabled services business. This has been highly reviewed, and they have had a number of public meetings soliciting public comment. So what is before you with this item is a resolution that would give your approval to Bright Ridge to move forward with these additional service provisions.
I know Mr. Dykes is here to make a presentation to us. I would like to suggest that as much as I would love to hear you talk again and to hear it for the fourth time, unless there are questions, we can direct to Mr. Dykes, but otherwise I don't think it's necessary to see the presentation again unless anybody else wants
It's
to.
a very nice presentation.
I know it is.
I would like to point out that public presentations have been made, but each of us has also had the opportunity to sit down with him and understand the business plan and the concept of what this will be moving forward. So I think all of us have been extremely well versed in what you're trying to accomplish, what the potential issues are with it. I'm quite comfortable without you going through your presentation again.
So with that, do we have a motion?
I would move that we approve a resolution authorizing the Johnson City Energy Authority doing business as Bright Ridge to provide high-speed internet, video, cable, other broadband and internet-enabled services.
Second.
And Mayor, if I could also make a statement that, in full disclosure, I do serve on the Bright Ridge Board, but I have no personal interest in this business.
You are our representative.
That's right.
And I think for citizens, that the economic development component to this is significant in terms of the capacity to deliver a service that otherwise would not be available in our market, which is truly in keeping with the vision and mission of the Tennessee Valley Authority 3 generations ago when it was deployed. And when you think about its impact to the pad-ready sites of the industrial park, this has the potential of being very, very significant.
Now, I have a 45-minute presentation.
That wasn't 45 minutes.
No, kidding. Any other discussion or comments? Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes.
The next order of business is consideration of an agreement between the Tennessee Valley Authority, Bright Ridge, and the city concerning pilot payments associated with the provision of broadband. The explanation is in your packet, as is the agreement. And basically what this lays out is that there is no tax dollars involved in the startup or the operation of the broadband business. There will be an interdivision loan between the electrical distribution portion of Bright Ridge to the broadband division. The maximum loan amount that has been approved by TVA is $35 million, although the business plan does not call for borrowing that entire amount. All payments must be repaid no later than January the 15th of 2035. As you are aware, the electrical distribution business pays us a payment in lieu of tax payment each year. The broadband business is set up such that if they are delinquent with a loan repayment to the electrical distribution, then the pilot payment that is due to the city would be delayed or withheld until such time that the loan payment from broadband to electrical distribution is brought current. I would add to that, the business plan currently is built around the fact that the first 8 years' loan payments are a part of what is being borrowed. So that money is guaranteed to be there to make those loan repayments the first 8 years that they're in business. So based on that, there is no jeopardy with pilot payments for the first 8 years, which the business plan outlines that gives them an opportunity to get into business and be mature enough with that business that there are no questions, and if for some reason that there is questions about the longevity of that, then they can start unwinding broadband, although that is not foreseen or projected to occur. You have a similar agreement with TV on the electrical distribution side that is already in existence and has been in existence for probably 50-plus years, and that calls for, should the electrical distribution business be delinquent on a payment to TVA for the purchase of power, then the pilot payment does not get paid to us until the TVA is made whole and brought current. So this is not a new concept being introduced in terms of the payment of pilots. It's very similar to what is in existence with the electrical distribution. Legal has reviewed this. I've reviewed it. I feel very comfortable with recommending to the Board of Commissioners that you approve this agreement between the TVA, Bright Ridge, and the city.
This is not a new approach, that's true. There is, however, a potential liability to the citizens and their tax rate if this doesn't fly, if this does not work. So I think that needs to be mentioned. Your comments would sort of suggest that there's not a risk. There is a risk here, but I have met with Mr. Dykes, and I've met with his CFO and the gentleman who's put a lot of this together for Bright Ridge. I asked the same questions that I would have asked tonight based upon the comment that I just made, and I feel quite comfortable that the business plan is a solid business plan. The capture rate doesn't have to be as high as what it's been suggested they suspect it will be, and that's a fairly conservative estimate. When you look at what other utilities have been able to accomplish, you've taken this same endeavor on. So I've looked at it pretty critically, and Mr. Dykes, I believe your plan's a good one, and even though I have to say there is some risk, it's not that there is no risk to the taxpayers. I believe that risk is very low, and I have full confidence that you guys will move forward, make this a very successful endeavor. Should there be the occasion that it was not, that you will bail out quite quickly before that maximum amount of money that could end up being lost would be lost. Appreciate all the work you've done. I think it's a great concept, and I certainly will be supportive.
I think another note is that as the broadband business, we get in business, we'll start seeing our pilot payment from Bright Ridge increase as well.
That would be great if that occurs, and I anticipate it will.
Well, is either of those a motion?
I will make the motion to approve an agreement between TVA, Bright Ridge, and the city concerning pilot payments associated with the provision of broadband.
And a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brockman?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes.
The next order of business is consideration of an agreement of sale for the purchase of approximately 36 acres along the Bristol Highway from Joe Wilson and partners. We had discussed this agenda item, I guess, a month or so ago and had deferred it, awaiting some clarification on the item following this, which is a transfer of property between the Sell family and the city. The sales agreement stands as it was presented to you before. The purchase price is $1,400,000. Like I said, it is approximately 36 acres adjacent to Wingdeer Park. Also included in your packet the executive summary of an appraisal that we had done in July of 2016 on this particular property, which identified the value at that time as $1,410,000. I'd be glad to answer any other questions that you may have.
Have any questions?
I'd like to say something again here, just to clarify. I know that's wonderful land right beside where we have Wingdeer Park. I understand that acreage that we would like to have for sports fields, and I've been a proponent of sports fields since I got on this 2 years ago, and I would like to have those, but now, again, I come back to, he bought this land for $600,000. He's paying taxes at an appraisal rate of $360,000. And we get a new appraisal for 1.4, which is great to get appraisal for 1.4, but I don't like to pay full price for appraisals on real estate or anything anyway. But it's been for sale for years. No one has bought it at a lower price than this. But as soon as we find out that the city wants to buy it, it's 1.4, and I won't take a dime less than that, so I'm going to be voting no for it. So I don't think it's right to kind of hold the city over a barrel and make us pay $1.4 million for this land. So,
Commissioner Fowler, I don't necessarily disagree with how you've analyzed it. However, what I do look at is what use this property has, and I think, I think the price is not unrealistic considering the benefit that future generations will get out of this if developed into the park amenities that we anticipate it will be developed to hold. So while I agree I'd like to pay less, the opportunity is there, the need is there. Unfortunately, we see what we hoped might be a joint arrangement between the city and the county on construction of fields become, in my opinion, prohibitively expensive when they're looking at asking for a commitment from us of $7, $8, $9 million. And so to me, this affords us the best opportunity to move forward with the recreational needs that we need, that we have. So even though I agree with you, I would like to pay less, I am going to go ahead and support it. But I certainly don't argue with your thoughts.
I just think $400,000 could be spent for other things besides land that's about worth $1 million to us, so.
Well, I don't, there are certainly many ways that the money could be spent. I would like to see Main Street reconstructed between Buffalo and Rome, so I don't argue with you there. But I think that this will be something that will be looked back upon as though, even though we'd love to have had it for less, it still will be a good value for our citizens moving forward.
Well, we kind of jumped the gun on discussion. Do we have a motion?
Well, we do that all the time.
I know.
Yeah, I have some comments, but I'll wait for the
Let's get a motion and a
I would
second. and then
move
we'll-
approval of an agreement of sale for the purchase property from Joe Wilson and Partners, that amount being $1.4 million.
How about a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second now.
Yes, thank you.
Let's discuss. Yeah.
Well, Commissioners, and to the public as well, I've thought about this long and hard, and looking at what impact this would have on our community in the long term, basically long after we're gone. And I actually prepared some remarks, so if y'all will indulge me just a minute, I'd like to kind of go through these in an organized fashion. Because tonight we're going to be voting on acquiring 37 acres of land adjacent to Winged Deer Park. Because of its contiguous nature to Winged Deer, it would create a 237-acre footprint that can easily become a multi-sport and activity complex. It will become a center of excellence for our citizens for softball, soccer, rugby, lacrosse, mountain biking, and I could go on with the activities that can be conducted there. It would serve the high demand of Parks and Recreation league play, travel sports clubs, professional club play, and large sports tournaments. The amenities at Winged Deer Park offers athletics and their athletes and their families outstanding opportunities to enjoy other activities, and should be impressive for out-of-town visitors of things they can do while they're at that complex. Likewise, facilities of this nature are elements that are attractive to families and businesses who are looking at the city and looking for a quality of place to move and relocate. We and other commissions before us have been discussing how to add more recreational fields to our at-capacity athletic programs. Additionally, in 2014, the Convention and Visitors Bureau issued a report about the economic impact to Johnson City if we just had 10 to 12 softball fields and 10 to 12 rectangular fields, allowing for teams of 80 to 100 coming in for tournaments. Easily, a 3-day weekend tournament would generate a minimum of $1 million in direct spending in our city, and it's really likely more than that. The Chamber's Board of Directors unanimously adopted the CVB Council's recommendation to approve the 2% increase in the hotel motel tax. The board's position continues to be for additional development of fields for our citizens and hosting sports events which provide a direct economic impact. By selecting this site, we've had the opportunity to add to an existing site, thus creating a state-of-the-art sports complex to serve our citizens while considering the needs of the expected population growth in years to come. In previous discussions, we looked at two strategies: adding fields in various locations throughout the city on city-owned property, and 2, acquiring a large parcel of land to build a discrete sports complex. The first approach presented could meet our citizens' needs, but it did not present us with a competitive advantage in attracting the large sports tournaments. The second approach checked both boxes. However, the $25 to $30 million price tag was not something we could reach. So purchasing the 37-acre Wilson property, which has already been partially excavated, for the appraised price of $1.4 million, allows us to create a large sports complex where half of the facility is already built out and owned by the citizens of Johnson City. Banking the new land until we can begin building fields provides the citizens a secure roadmap to expand their park system. No longer would this or future commissions have to be just talking about this. So I believe the value of this approach, where the citizens of Johnson City will have full access and priority to their sports fields, is in the best interest. I will vote affirmatively for this purchase, which is the recommendation of the Johnson City Parks and Recreation Board and is budgeted in this year's budget. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Ms. Jennings, call her,
Well, I would like to just, I am sympathetic to Dr. Fowler's comments, and I've kind of worked this back and forth in my head, and ultimately, as we've looked at all of these different scenarios, anywhere we build out this extra capacity, there's some number, $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.3 million, $1.5 million, $900,000, that the land is going to cost, regardless of where the land is. And for the reasons the vice mayor articulated, particularly with half of this, if we are ever going to have a large-scale sports complex, it is here. We're not going to start from scratch and do it again. And so while I do think private buyers whose capacity and interest would leave potential sellers a little less clear what the dynamic of the transaction was shaping up to be, and you probably might have seen a slightly different sale price, meaning no disrespect to the seller, I would be playing my hand exactly the same way if I were in their shoes. I think and I've watched the city do this for 20 years. Anytime it's buying and selling property, everything has to be done on TV, and all of a sudden that puts you at a little bit of a disadvantage in those transactions. With that said, I think this is too important an opportunity to pass up, and I think over the long term, we will look back on this and say, that was a good call, and so I will be voting affirmatively for those reasons.
Okay. Anyone else?
Me running out of people.
Just checking. Ms. Jennings?
I can make another couple comments.
Commissioner Fowler.
Again, it's not that I don't like the property or where it is. I just think we're paying too much, and that's why I really don't ever want to be called a politician, because I didn't get in this for politics, and I feel like this is absolute politics, that we're going to pay this amount of money for it, and it's just like has always been done by the city. We're held over a barrel, and we're paying more than we should. So I'm going to vote no.
Commissioner Van Brocklin.
I don't view this a political decision. I view this as a decision that allows us to acquire a piece of property that will have great value to our citizens in the future. Yes.
Commissioner Wise.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Mayor Temita.
Yes.
Your next order of business is consideration of an agreement of sale for the purchase of property from Hayward and Cherry Sale. This is a 1.83 acre tract of land that lies, again, adjacent to Wing Deer and the Wilson property. What this piece of property does is would grant a better access from the Bristol Highway into the Wilson property. Additionally, it makes a connection between the Wilson property and the existing park site. The compensation that is being requested for the property is for the city to relocate the Sell's existing water tap from down along the Bristol Highway up to the new property line, which would be at the new property line created by this subdivision and transfer of property, and also that the entrance into the park be constructed and dedicated as a public street rather than a driveway, which would give them access into their property. They currently have this piece of property they're transferring to us, which gives them the legal frontage to their property. When we acquire this property, if you approve that, this will not create a non-conforming lot. They will still have 50 feet of frontage. The improvements have to be completed before the property transfer takes place. The agreement before you gives us the right to enter onto their property to perform these improvements. We're going to have to build an entrance into the Wilson, what has been referred to as the Wilson property. So there is no real additional expense because we're going to have to build a road up through there anyway. The relocation of the water tap, we're going to have to put water and sewer services up to the new property. So we're going to be putting in an 8-inch water line to accommodate irrigation and toilets and all those types of things. Relocating that water tap really won't have any significant financial cost to us. And the improvements that will be made are going to have to be made whether we acquire this piece of property or not. We would recommend approval of this, and we're certainly appreciative of the cell's willingness to do this in a manner that's really a win-win for everybody involved.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions for Mr. Peterson or discussion?
No, I think now that we own the Wilson property, we need to do this.
Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tumita?
Yes.
This brings you to the conclusion of this evening's agenda. One thing I would like to bring to everybody's attention is that on next Friday, September the 14th at 10:30 a.m., we will have an unveiling and a formal dedication of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Parkway designation on that section of State of Franklin from Market Street out to the Bristol Highway. The dedication ceremonies will take place in the general vicinity of the Hampton Inn over near Market Street. And I think we're going to have a reception in the lobby of the Hampton Inn once the unveiling is done. And this will be in conjunction with the city, our state representatives, and representatives of the NAACP. So we're very excited to get that put into place. And TDOT has been a real joy to work with in terms of getting the approvals and getting the signs manufactured, and they will install the signs. And so want to make sure that everybody gets that on their calendar. Just as an inside joke to the commission, if you could put that on your paper calendars, and that way we don't run the risk of the electronic calendars messing up. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Van Brocklin has a paper calendar.
I don't have any problem with your electronic calendar. None whatsoever.
And we'd be glad to take any questions you may have.
Well, I'd just like to make a comment. We sincerely appreciate Senator Crow helping facilitate this and getting this done quickly. That's been one of my concerns, was that we would go ahead and as a commission agree to the designation and then have it take forever to get signage up. Now, granted, I would like to see a little different type of signage than the state allows us to do, but we take what the state gives us, and we certainly appreciate Senator Crow helping facilitate things.
Commissioner Wise, any comments?
Well, we just observed Labor Day on Monday, and it was especially striking to me as Monday is the day our solid waste and recycling is collected at our house, and so it was Labor Day, and some of our 900-plus city employees were working on that day. You know, police and fire and others are doing likewise, and I think it's just worth acknowledging the significant contribution the 900 and some employees of the city of Johnson City make to the quality of life of our citizens and guests.
Anything? Vice Mayor?
I would like to, and I see Chief Turner sitting over here, just compliment our city. Yesterday, Mayor Tumita and Mr. Peterson and Chief Turner and Major Patello attended a conference here on trauma-informed care, of which Johnson City was really highlighted. It was a national conference, and we probably had representatives from over 20 states in attendance. The mayor and I sat with the First Lady of Delaware and the First Lady of Tennessee, who came later, along with a lot of other representatives from several states. What we were really earmarked for here was the work that Becky Haas and Dr. Andy Clemens from East Tennessee State University have done in terms of starting the training for trauma-informed care and developing actually a system of care where organizations throughout our community, from healthcare to policing to social services, have been trained in what is kind of sweeping the nation now in terms of the way we work with people. Dr. Nolan was there most of the day, in fact, announced that East Tennessee State University now will be adding a curriculum in teaching trauma-informed care, so which is very, very significant. But if you saw it in the paper today, you may see it actually in the national news coming up, but it was Johnson City has gotten it right. And so I think it's a lot we have to be proud of, and Major Turner, thank you for all the work that you've done. It's really a significant statement to say that our police department here is kind of thinking outside the box in terms of what it's doing to work with our citizens and the challenges that we have. So just wanted to compliment the whole team here at the city, and we need to gloat a little bit, I think. And Emoja's this weekend?
Emoja is this
Emoja.
weekend, starts tomorrow, and I'm going to encourage everybody to get out and enjoy Emoja, and encourage everybody that can to travel to Knoxville and cheer on the Buccaneers as they produce another significant victory and bring the trophy back to Upper East Tennessee.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Now that my oldest is out of UT, I only have one at ETSU, so I don't have to be divided. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
They'll be gone.